Part 58. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 572. Main Mission 3 released, completely eliminate the Wraith Spirit Gaia. After the mission is completed, you will return to the real world. Mission failed, completely deprived of apostle qualifications. Main Mission 3. Come as you say. But who is Gaia? Gaia-Mi's name is hidden in various clues. But if you fail to achieve a higher degree of completion in the first round of investigation, you will never have heard of the name Gaia-Kinmai. Kudo Shinji was one of them. He and Su Anjing and others were directed to the small bungalow where Gaia-Mi once lived, but in the end, Su Anjin intercepted him and took away the only name Gaia-Kinmai diary. Although I don't know who Gaia-Mi is. But it doesn't matter. It looks like it's a boss, Stone Hammer. It was only the second day of this mysterious trial, but the clever apostles had already seen through everything and went straight to the final stage of killing the boss that they loved to see. But the price paid is too great. Kudo Shinji looked at the corpses all over the place. He still couldn't figure out why the crazy woman in Yilin's team suddenly went berserk, slashing everyone she saw and chopping anything that was moving to death. If it hadn't been for her, the current trial would never have turned into such a tragic situation. Damn it! Kudo Shinji hesitated for a moment, but it was only for a moment. After reading the information about the main task 3, Kudo Shinji immediately stepped back and said loudly to the others, "Quickly touch." The mission is completed. In fact, Kudo Shinji was able to escape unharmed after touching the box, which is more convincing than any nonsense. So when Kudo Shinji said the words "mission accomplished," Xiang Baxian, Wang Yang, Chu Yalian, Chen Xiaoxiao, Zhou Bukan and other surviving elites all believed Kudo Shinji's words with expressions on their faces. He was overjoyed and at the same time stretched out his hand towards the blood-red color exposed after the stone peeled off. Touch, touch, touch. Touch it before talking. Everything happened in the blink of an eye, from when a few people took action against the black pillar to when the pillar gradually collapsed, revealing the true form of Pandora's box. It only took a few seconds. Within a few seconds, Master Yunfan had already reacted. Master Yunfan, who had always seemed very powerful, was now as anxious as a helpless child. After roaring angrily, he desperately picked up the golden Zen staff beside him and moved forward. A sharp knock. I don't know if Xiang Baxian's goal is too big, or because his standing position is not very good, or because he is more prominent, and the Zen staff fell on Xiang Baxian's back like a dough stick. The heavy golden Zen staff was as powerful as 1,000 pounds. Xiang Baxian was on the side of strength, and his health was knocked off in an instant. Xiang Baxian gritted his teeth and withstood the attack. He even used the strength of the Zen staff to touch the exposed blood-red area with his little hand. Touched it? The reminder that appeared in front of him made Xiang Baxian look happy. But before he could rejoice, Master Yunfan, who looked crazy, swung the Zen staff in his hand to death. Circles of golden ripples shook the entire air raid shelter, as if it would collapse at any time. Huge pieces of rubble fell from the ceiling. Dazzling cracks also appeared on the walls of the surrounding air raid shelters. More ghosts and ghosts surged out from the cracks in the wall as the dark pillars cracked, and the black aura visible to the naked eye spread, as if to completely flood the space. Kaka. Paper talismans burned into ashes out of thin air, and all the pillars supporting the air raid shelter were cracking. The girl's shallow laughter echoed in everyone's ears. The sound, which was obviously so sweet, so crisp, and so warm, was ringing in everyone's ears at this moment. Everyone who heard the laughter felt cold all over, and their limbs seemed to be frozen, or as if they were being swallowed by water. It's sticky, wet, and slippery, and I can't stop, and I can't help myself. No. Seeing the pillars collapse one after another, Master Yunfan's mentality also collapsed. He looked crazy and threw himself desperately towards the dark pillar in the center. He looked like a helpless old man, trying to dig at the gravel on the ground. Filling the peeling pillars seems to restore them to their original appearance. While filling it, Master Yunfen shouted, "No. Only a little bit. Only a little bit. My dream of immortality. These are my wishes. No. Give it back to the old man, return these wishes to the old man." Master Yunfen's cry makes those who hear it sad and those who listen to it cry. When Master Yunfen was so excited that he couldn't control himself, the others took the opportunity to complete the task. No. Master Yunfen, who ignored the others, suddenly showed a cruel look on his face and murmured to himself, "No. There is another way, and dash. Laugh." At this moment, a blood-stained long knife penetrated Master Yunfen's chest from behind. The next second, another knife swiped past Master Yunfen's neck. The two-knife style is good, one knife stabs, one knife chops, and you can tear out the heart and cut off the head. The old man's head, frozen in an expression of shock, fear, and regret, flew high, ever higher. Oda Mai stood behind Master Yunfen with two swords in hand, looking at the headless corpse slowly falling in front of her. Her eyes showed no emotion, only pure murderous intent remained. Dead, dead. Several people who completed the second main mission saw Master Yunfen, who was very impressive not long ago, suddenly die in front of them, and also died under the sword dance of Oda. This was unacceptable to Shinji Kudo and others. How awesome was it just now? How do you say it's gone? After Oda Mai killed Master Yunfen, the wall paint and stones on the surface of the black pillars were peeling off to the point that they could no longer bear the weight and shattered to pieces on the ground. After the pillar collapsed, the blood-red picture that had previously only revealed the tip of the iceberg was finally fully revealed in front of everyone. It was a blood-colored jar, with many strange patterns and textures painted with pen and ink on the surface of the jar. The jar has a very wide seal, wide enough to force a living person into. The seal was wrapped in layers of thick cloth, and at the neck of the bottle, circles of golden silk thread completely sealed the huge blood-colored jar. People were curious as to what was contained in this strangely shaped jar. Main mission 2 has been completed. Then there is no doubt that it is Pandora's box. But why is a jar called Pandora's box? Master Yunfen seems to know a lot of inside information. But he was chopped to death by Oda Mai with two knives, just like chopping melons and vegetables. Master. The few monks who survived bravely bypassed Oda Mai and pounced on the body of Master Yunfen. Some even tried to find the head of Master Yunfen that flew to an unknown place, trying to separate the head and the headless body. The corpses were pieced together. Click. With an imperceptible soft sound, a crack began to rise upward from the bottom of the jar, extending like a branch sprouting. Wang Yang looked at the dark jar, gritted his teeth, and with a strange color in his eyes, he approached the bloody jar step by step. Xiang Bassian slapped Wang Yang on the back of the head. The sparkle in Wang Yang's eyes disappeared, replaced by confusion. "What's wrong with you? Leave quickly. Do you want to die here? This place is going to collapse." Wang Yang's lips trembled, and when he was about to say something, Xiang Bassian pulled Wang Yang and ran towards the only exit without looking back. As he ran, he muttered, "Old ancestor, ancestor, if you are willing I will bless your most handsome descendant. Don't make the same mistake as you always do and end up dying because of a woman. The point is, I haven't matured enough to understand this woman. Walk." Kudo Shinji could not care about other people at this moment. The lightning flashed wildly, and his ability was activated, like a bolt of lightning. He ran very fast and flew in front of Xiang Bassian and Wang Yang, disappearing in the darkness. Grass. When Xiang Bassian saw that Kudo Shinji could run faster than anyone else, he couldn't help but want to scold his mother. But at this time, racking his brains to curse a bunch of flowers will undoubtedly delay his chance to escape, So after Siang Basian said the word hum that contained infinite emotions, he pulled himself up and was still a little dazed. Wang Yang ran outside. Muto Iron ignored all the people running away, and also ignored the increasing number of ghosts around him. The air raid shelter was about to collapse. Dark blood seeped from the cracks in the walls. There was an indescribable stench floating in the airtight space. When Muto Iron walked to the bloody jar, Oda Mai stepped on the corpse, staggered to behind Muto Iron, and asked, "Where are they?" Oda Wu asked Su Jingjing and Li Changa. Sent to the next door. Muto Iron did not look back, staring at the bloody jar with deep eyes. There are more and more cracks on the jar, covering the entire jar. Compared with the surrounding environment, the surface of the jar is the cleanest, as if something is being suppressed inside the jar. After Muto Iron said this, he saw Oda Mai making a gesture like brushing something with her fingers, and couldn't help but sneer, "Don't worry, after death, the real battlefield is next door. Maybe what I say may not be entirely true, but for you, I won't lie." The logic of Oda Mai is actually very simple. She actually couldn't figure out the twists and turns. But Oda Mai only believed in one thing. That insidious man has a hard life and cannot die. And Yilin's name is still on. In other words, death may be just a way to go to the other side. Thinking of this, Oda Wu looked fearless, raised the knife high, and was about to swipe it on his neck. Wait a minute. Just when Muto Iron was about to stop her, Oda Mai slowly typed a question mark, as if she didn't understand what this fake Iron was stopping her from doing. Muto Iron smiled helplessly, "I almost forgot. For you, whether it is suicide, being killed by someone, or being killed by a ghost, there is no difference. Death cannot bring you fear. However, I think it will be more beneficial to the other me if you go to the other side after watching this drama." When Oda Mai heard the first half of the sentence, she didn't want to pay attention to it. But after hearing the last sentence, she put down the knife in her hand and was about to swipe it on her neck to see what Iron Muto wanted to do after all this. Muto Iron smacked his palm out of the air, and the bloody jar shattered, and a vat of black liquid poured onto the ground. In the blink of an eye, black blood filled a shallow puddle in the air raid shelter. Under the infiltration of the black water, all the dead people and their corpses made the crisp sound of bones. The corpses soaked in the black water, he twitched wildly and stood up again one after another. But Oda Mai no longer cares about everything around her. What she cares about is what is contained in the jar, to be called Pandora's box. The moment the jar shattered, the things inside were finally revealed. It was a corpse that was white and wrinkled due to soaking, but not rotten. Infinity Throne. Author, Bai Yi Xueshi. Chapter 573. The hands and feet of the corpse looked very slender and covered with scars. On that head, the wet short hair almost stuck to the skull. Muto Iron waved his hand, and the corpse floated up. The dripping black water dripped down the clothes on the corpse and merged into the black water pool in the air raid shelter, where the water level gradually rose. Blisters of varying sizes appeared on the surface of the corpse due to years of soaking. It's a miracle it didn't rot completely. I don't know what scientific ingredients the black water has, but it has such miraculous skincare effects. The half-decomposed female corpse still looks a little pink. If other women saw it, they might be overjoyed. When the body with pale skin was picked up from the black water by Iron Muto, the two colors of black and white formed a sharp contrast with great visual impact. The face of the corpse was so rotten that it was impossible to recognize its original appearance. But those wrinkled lips were curiously curled up on both sides, as if they were smiling. Where the eyes were, there were only two dark holes left, and the eyes had no idea where they had gone. Boom! Behind Oda Mai, the pillars collapsed, the ceiling above her head cracked, and a large piece of crude concrete structure peeled off and fell into the black water, but it did not cause any splash. This place is going to collapse. All the surviving apostles, After completing the second main mission, were afraid that they would not live long and rushed to leave here. After all, life is at stake. Only Otamai, who knows part of the truth, is left here and still sticks to this place. He even prepared to stab himself in the neck to feel what it would be like to have the knife slice through his neck. In a world where death is enough, opportunities are rare, and my Ota will not easily let go of this opportunity that can bring her a different understanding. While you have time, listen to me tell a story. Muto Urin took out an eyeball from his pocket. The eyeballs floated up from Yilin's hand and stuffed into one of the eye sockets. Otamai put away the knife and quietly began to listen to the story told by Muto Urin. Even if this place is about to collapse, even if something shocking is about to happen, this has nothing to do with her. Because Otamai has a feeling that what Iron Muto is about to say will be very crucial to the outcome of this trial. Once upon a time there was a girl, her name was Xiaomei. She is good-looking and kind, with big beautiful eyes and thick and long braids. Muto Iron looked calm, staring at the corpse floating in front of him, and smiled, but her parents died before she was very young, and she was sent to an orphanage. The friends in the orphanage all said that little Mike killed her parents and stayed away from her. Xiaomei has always been wondering what she did wrong. She always wanted to play with her friends, but they ignored her and even bullied her. 2 years later, a pair of parents adopted her. She couldn't be happier. She has her parents again. Xiaomei, she smiled very happily. She left the orphanage. But a few months later, she came back again, back to the orphanage. When I came back this time, Xiaomei became even more silent. She hugged the bear doll all day long and didn't want to talk. One day, a girl in the orphanage had her bear taken away. Xiaomei's most beloved thing was taken away. She was very angry. She thought it would be nice if the little girl who took her doll could die. Oh! The sky has eyes. The next day, the girl really died. She fell from the swing and her brains were squeezed out. She died miserably. Muto Iron said in a serious tone, fearing that Otamai would not be able to understand how tragic this was. Otamai was very calm and urged, "Oh, continue, hurry up. As expected of you." Muto Iron secretly cursed in her heart and continued to tell the warm childhood story. Xiaomei began to find that she seems to be a little different from other people. Muto Iron vividly used 2 fingers to pinch them together, making a little bit gesture. It's really just a little bit different. Rumble. The surrounding area is still crumbling. Many of the resurrected apostles rushed towards Otamai with ferocious faces. Otamai didn't even raise her eyelids as a sword flashed past her. The world is quiet. Muto Iron continued. Later, another pair of parents took Xiaomei away. They said at the time that they would give Xiaomei the happiest home. But not long after, Xiaomei came back again. From that day on, Xiaomei never trusted anyone again. But not long after, another pair of very wealthy people finally took Xiaomei away. This time, Xiaomei was not unhappy or very happy. She didn't say a word and seemed very quiet. Her new parents were very fond of it at the time and said, "Where should such a quiet little girl go? Try to find." They placed Xiaomei in a beautiful house with everything. Xiaomei finally thought that she could truly have parents for once, and gradually began to feel happy. But she later discovered that there was something strange in that beautiful house. There were cameras everywhere, and it seemed like there were people everywhere, spying on her in secret. Even when she was eating, taking a bath, and sleeping, there were people watching Xiaomei. Xiaomei, she is very scared. She finally understood that the parents who took her out of the orphanage did not really want to be her parents. But Xiaomei really doesn't want to be her parents anymore. Back to that cold place. So Xiaomei pretended not to know and pretended to be a well-behaved and quiet Xiaomei. Finally, Xiaomei has gone to school. From elementary school to middle school, Xiaomei has always been quiet. But people around her gradually discovered Xiaomei's weirdness. There is always nothing good going on around her. For example, there would be car accidents on the road she passed. Around the house where she lived, flowers would die in spring. In the park where she played, many dead kitten bodies would appear inexplicably. The classmates thought Xiaomei was unlucky, so they started bullying her and told her to get out. Xiaomei, she thinks it's very strange. Muto Iron turned her head, looked at Oda Mai and said with a smile, yes, it's very strange. Why? Why is it Xiaomei? Why is she the only one who is unlucky? By the way, in your words, it should be, the luck value is too low. Oda Mai thoughtfully said, I understand, that's how it is. When Muto Iron heard this, his expression was slightly stunned. Why did these words sound so familiar? Wait, what do you understand this time? But he didn't have time to discuss it with Oda Mai at the moment, so he speeded up his speech and progress bar. Later, Xiaomei died, very suddenly. When Muto Iron said this, he stepped on the dark blood under his feet. But wherever he passed, the dark blood separated on its own initiative, preventing Iron Muto from getting even a drop of it. I saw Muto Iron coming to Master Yunfan. Master Yunfan's head had long been gone. At this moment, his headless corpse was floating in the black water without any movement. Tear dash. Muto Iron tore open Master Yunfan's blood-stained hunting clothes and exposed Master Yunfan's body. On the chest of Master Yunfan, there is a dead eyeball embedded strangely, the pupil has already turned white. Around the eyeballs, it seemed that there was a severe rejection reaction, with the flesh and blood rotting and even pus emerging. Next to that dead eyeball, the incision left by Oda Mai after stabbing it was just a few centimeters away. Oda Mai's knife was slightly crooked just now, and she stabbed out the eyeball. Muto Urin stretched out his palm and held it in front of him. The invisible palm plucked out the eyeballs from the headless corpse. He looked at the eyeball, held it gently in his hand, finally raised his head, looked at Oda Mai, and told the ending of the Little Beauty video story. Xiaomei was actually very happy when she died. Because she felt that there was nothing wrong with her life ending like this. But I just won't let her die obediently. Just like this master, dreaming of an illusory dream of immortality, he found some secret techniques from somewhere, and made Xiaomei into a universal wishing machine. If you soak it for 1,000 days, you can live forever. Haha, do you think? Is it a medicinal wine? Muto Urin smiled, flicked his finger, and the pale eyeball accurately sunk into the other dark eye socket on the corpse. After the two eyeballs returned to their original positions, the originally lifeless face seemed to have insects crawling under the skin, squirming crazily. The two eyeballs that came up from behind were dyed black again and emerged pure black. They trembled slightly at first, and then the trembling became larger and larger. Finally, they started to circle 3 times to the left, 3 times to the right, up and down, and started doing regular eye exercises. Oda Mai looked at the eye exercises with a blank expression. There is no disturbance in my heart. She has experienced the weirdest things. The fact that he could hold back from slashing him with a knife was all for the sake of that face. Really give face. At this time, what line should I say? Muto Iron thought for a moment, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth that made Oda Mai feel familiar. But for a while, time was running out, and she couldn't remember on what occasion she had seen such a kind smile. So familiar. After a moment of silence, Muto Iron clenched his fist with his right hand and clapped it hard with his left palm. He suddenly understood and laughed heartily. It's not you that's wrong, it's this world. Snapped. The next second, the corpse with its moving eyes melted like a candle and merged into the dark blood, indistinguishable from each other. Kanzaki Middle School. The ground shook. Shinji Kudo is the fastest. Call. Finally. Escaped. Running fast is good. Oh, Kudo Shinji, am not that easy. Click. But before he could be happy for long, a fishy wind suddenly came from behind Kudo Shinji. A huge dog-shaped creature nearly 10 meters tall seemed to have been waiting here for a long time. Less than a second after Kudo Shinji came out, with a click, Kudo Shinji's upper body was bitten off by the giant dog, leaving only his lonely lower body, with blood spurting out from the broken roots. The blood was red and white. Very scary. The dog-shaped creature has an uneven body surface. If you look closely, you can see that the dog body surface is covered with dog heads, and even has claws, tails, and hair. This 10-meter-tall giant dog monster seemed to be made from the piles of countless puppy corpses. Somehow, it grew into this curious shape. After the giant dog monster ate Kudo Shinji, the corners of its mouth curled up, and an evil and exaggerated smile appeared on its face. It jumped high and disappeared into the night sky in the blink of an eye. After a while, the others ran away at about the same speed. They had already kept an eye out and memorized the route. Xiang Basian, Wang Yang, Zhou Bukan, Chu Yalian, Chen Xiaoxiao, and a few apostles who were lucky enough not to be hacked to death by Oda Wu, totaling exactly 10 people, escaped from there one after another. Everyone was in shock, and the ground beneath their feet was shaking. This exaggerated movement was not just a simple earthquake, it was as if something huge was about to burst out of the ground beneath its feet. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, Bai Yi Shueshi. Chapter 574. In the world of curiosity. There was light black rain in the sky. The color of the rain is much lighter than at the beginning. The color of the whole world seems to be gradually fading. From the original pure black, it has evolved into the light black it is now. The world reorganization time after time has gradually transformed the world in front of us into a weirder shape. So, you were tricked to death like this. Yilin looked at Li Chang'e and Su Jingjing, who were dying together with a straight face, expressionless. Su Jingjing and Li Chang'e contacted him in panic. After re-establishing contact, Yilin knew that Su Jingjing and Li Chang'e finally died and came to this world. With the help of the communication function, Yilin fished out Li Chang'e and Su Anjing from the tide of monsters, and temporarily stayed in a relatively safe geometric building. Su Jingjing knew that he was in the wrong and felt a little embarrassed. She remembered that in the passage, Muto Iron deliberately walked behind the two people, suddenly took out two black revolvers, clicked twice, and shot each of them in the back of the head. They looked confused. Died. But he is so real. I have obviously used my innate ability. Yilin actually didn't blame Su Anjing. Who let the person who tricked Su Jingjing into death be his other self? If Muto Yurin, who had copied all his memories and abilities, had not easily deceived Su Jingjing and Li Chang'e's IQ and abilities, this would have made Yurin feel depressed and even doubtful about life. Now, Yilin felt comfortable. But being comfortable is still comfortable. As the president of the world's #1 guild, he still has to have the majesty he should have. So Yilin put on a straight face, showed the majesty of the president, and interrupted Su Jingjing, don't rely too much on a certain ability. For a senior apostle, being able to survive numerous difficult trials does not rely on a certain ability. Do you deserve to die when you encounter a cheating trial like role-playing? Su Jingjing and Li Chang'e were unable to refute Yilin's words. Su Anjing also knew that at that time, he chose to believe in Muto Iron's words and believed that Muto Iron would not kill the two of them. It was also because Su Anjing repeatedly used his bloodline talent ability to repeatedly confirm the color on Muto Iron's head. Green results. Seeing that the two of them were silent, Yilin casually shook out the destruction revolver, and with a bang, the ghost hand that he had quietly touched on the wall behind the two of them was shot into bloody water. This sudden attack shocked the two of them. However, Yilin calmly put away the destruction revolver and continued to train his two subordinates. What really supports a senior to survive various trials is his rich experience, his decisiveness to act when he needs to, and his sensitivity to crises. Yilin sighed. He took a breath and said, "You chose to act with him even though you knew he was a fake. What else could you do if you weren't seeking death? I don't know what to say other than giving you the word you deserve it." Li Chang'e cried sadly. It was so embarrassing to be scolded by Yilin. Just when Li Chang'e wanted to say something to win back the victory, Su Jingjing tactfully raised his hand and quickly got in front of Zazage. He looked like a student who knew the answer to a difficult problem when he was a child, asking for credit, and said loudly, "Teacher, President, I got a lot of precious information from the fake goods. Yes, my death was not in vain." Yilin did not hesitate to praise, with an encouraging smile on her face. Su Jingjing said exactly what Iron Muto said as quickly as possible and in the most concise language. Yilin was alert to the movements around him. He had already experienced 4 world reorganizations here and had long known how to avoid attacks from ghosts. After listening silently to Su Anjing's talk about Muto Iron's performance and words in Kanzaki City, Yurin analyzed it carefully. After half a minute, he opened his eyes, nodded and said, "That's it? Pure black and pure white, the tone of voice is exactly the same as mine. No wonder you believe his words unconsciously. What does it mean?" Su Jingjing didn't quite understand Yilin's words and looked confused. This. Yilin naturally wouldn't say anything. Even the words of the real Yilin were not credible, let alone the fake Yilin. He paused and thought it was funny. "Do you know what the smartest way to lie is?" Li Chang'e. Su Jingjing. "That is, every sentence is true when taken apart. It doesn't sound like a big problem, but when put together, it becomes a big problem." Su Jingjing's eyes widened. Yilin did not give any more explanation for her words and asked again, "Do you know what the highest level of lying is?" Li Chang'e quickly praised, "We don't lie, how could we know?" Yilin clenched her fists, but her face remained calm. That is, after telling this lie, even she believed it. "I am stupid." Su Jingjing and Li Chang'e cried out when they heard this. So there is such a profound level of lying and cheating? It's so difficult. Are all the people on the spiritual side this year monsters? However, Yilin looked at the light black rain floating in the sky, changed her voice, and said with a smile, "At least, a few things he said are true. First, ghosts are difficult to kill, but they may not be the only ones to kill. Only ghosts can kill ghosts. Second, this world should be the world formed by the embodiment of Gaiageum's mental image. It is both illusion and reality, and there is indeed a certain corresponding relationship with the other side. Third, if his reasoning is not wrong, dyeing the world black is indeed one of the ways to clear the level, but since he is trying his best to promote this matter, I guess this is probably the most difficult way to clear the level." When Yilin said the name Gaia Kinmei, both Li Chang'e and Su Anjing's expressions changed drastically. Yilin knew what they were worried about at a glance and shook her head. "Don't worry, if this world is really the embodiment of Gaiageum's inner world, then it would make no difference whether or not her name is spoken. We are now living in Gaiageum's mind." Li Chang'e and Su Jingjing looked at each other. This strange unfolding was something they had never heard of or seen before. How much empty imagination does this require? The process of Yilin analyzing the trial with the two of them was actually the process of sorting out the clues herself. It doesn't matter whether Su Jingjing and Li Chang'e understand it or not, as long as Yilin can figure out the clues. At this time, Su Jingjing suddenly took a step back and looked directly at Yilin. "President, are you serious?" Yilin was dumbfounded by Su Anjing's reaction. "You've been persecuted too much and you've got persecution paranoia, right?" No, Su Jingjing shook his head, pursed his lips, and had the urge to draw his bow and shoot in the air. I don't know what to believe now. The truth is too false, and the lie is too true. You are talking now, the tone is exactly the same as that of the knockoff, and I can't tell who is who. Li Changa echoed from the side, yes, yes, boss, you two are so lifelike. It's easy to get confused. Right now. 3 people at their feet. The light black glass began to crack in pieces. Buildings in the distance began to collapse. The strange-looking ghosts started to stir again, melting into pieces of blood. The light black raindrops in the sky flowed upward strangely. Yilin, who has a lot of experience in the changes in the curious world, knew that the world reorganization was coming, and immediately reminded Li Changa and Su Jingjing in a deep voice, the world reorganization I mentioned before will come soon. After a while, yes, everything in this world will be disrupted and reorganized, and our location will be randomly transmitted. If you die here, you are really dead, and there is no way to resurrect. Li Changa and Su Jingjing were startled at the same time. There is no time to explain. Next, you remember, after the world is reorganized, find a way to survive, and find 2 places. One is the lake, and the other is Gayajimimi's classroom. These 2 places are the key to passing the trial. How do we find it? Look at your face, Yilin smiled slightly, maybe it needs a little luck. As soon as Yilin finished speaking, the 2 of them disappeared from his eyes almost in no particular order. Immediately afterwards, the scene before Yilin's eyes once again became fragmented. Before being randomly teleported, Yilin sighed helplessly, I should have brought Lao Pan with me if I had known. At the same time, in a corner of the curious world, Emperor Wang Tian was so sad. It's dead. Ouch. Alive again. But every time it thinks about how it will die, it can't help but tremble. Its mind is filled with chaotic buzzing sounds, like whispers from the abyss, and boundless fear spreads uncontrollably in the dog's heart. It's too awful. How could this be? I want to complain. You are abusing dogs. Dog abuse. Dog abuse. When he first came back to life, Wang Tiandi was crying so loudly in the corner where Wogui was that he didn't even remember that there was a communication function, and he forgot to contact Yilin immediately in this strange environment. That family of 3 left an indelible shadow in Wang Tiandi's life. I will never forget it for the rest of my life. Wang Tiandi swung his tail and spiraled into the sky, crying while escaping many attacks from ghosts in the air. It is not in the mood to farm monsters or anything like that now, and its expression is depressed, just like the lost scumbag that became lost when it said goodbye to the little she-wolf by the Ueguan jungle. Chi chi chi. Just when Wang Tiandi was wandering around in this weird world in a daze. Not far away, a familiar voice came. Wang Tiandi's whole body was trembling. The sound that seemed to be imprinted on his soul made the dog's hair stand on end. Even the spirally swinging tail subconsciously paused for a moment. Wang Tiandi almost crashed the plane and fell to the ground. In the tide of monsters as dense as the tide. That voice. Wang Tiandi's expression was stiff, he rolled his neck and turned his head little by little. I saw 3 dark monsters, 2 big and 1 small. They were running wildly on the ground with heroic steps. There are countless tentacles growing on their bodies, and at the end of each tentacle, there are various hands similar to tools. Some are like electric saws, some are like drills, some are like mouths, and some are like scissors. Countless tentacles, sparks and lightning, along the route they attacked, countless ghosts and ghosts were minced into pieces, and then turned into blood and disappeared. When Goza saw the posture of the new family of 3, he felt numb all over. They are chasing in the direction of Emperor Wang Tian. Mao, 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 Mao. 3 ferocious monsters, from nowhere, made a deafening sound, rustling. The sound was like sandpaper rubbing hard on a rough surface, The sound was particularly harsh, making the dog's body tremble and its tail frightened. Unable to shake it anymore, it fell from the air. The next second, the crashed Wang Tiandi didn't say a word, spat out dog language that even he couldn't understand, barked blindly, and ran wildly as his four legs wished they would turn into 16. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 575. Emperor Wang Tian fled, cried, and ran. It ran all the way, spinning, jumping, and sticking its butt out. Behind the family of three was flowing crystal clear stringy mucus, and the tentacles on their bodies turned into various tools. They seemed to have a morbid obsession with the four-legged creatures and pursued them relentlessly. In fact, with Wang Tiandi's level of enhancement and strength, he wouldn't end up in such an embarrassing situation even if he killed someone with a carbine or fired a shot. But the tragic experience in Nakiya's house had already wiped out Wang Tiandi's only fighting spirit, leaving only fear in his heart. Not to mention turning around and giving it a shot, it just hates that its legs are not long enough and it cannot run fast enough. The electric drill at the end of the tentacle rotated wildly. As it rotated, spiral thorns shot towards Wang Tiandi's twisting anus. Wang Tiandi felt the cool wind behind his buttocks. He was frightened and angry while dodging in embarrassment. Why can't this electric drill be used as a gun to shoot? Ridiculous. Why don't you go to heaven? Just when these thoughts flashed through Wang Tiandi's mind, the short monster in the family of three held scissors in his hand. The two ends of the scissors suddenly separated. It seemed to be inspired by the way Wang Tiandi flew into the sky just now. It directly used the huge scissors divided into two halves to spiral into the sky. It was farther and farther away from Wang Tiandi. Coming closer. Woof 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 woof. You are so damn good. Boom. In the distance, with the sound of a gunshot, a dazzling stream of light was like an electromagnetic gun, instantly piercing the scissor monster flying in mid-air. The scissor monster didn't even have a chance to resist. In the blink of an eye, it exploded in the air and turned into a rain of blood. Yilin was condescending, looking at the embarrassed Wang Tiandi running away in the sky 100 meters away. With a calm expression, he shook his wrist, loaded the bullet again, and said softly, "Why are you being chased like this?" Woof 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 dash. As soon as Emperor Wang Tian saw Yilin's figure in the sky, he rushed towards Yilin with tears in his eyes. It dares to swear for the rest of the dog's life that the dog has never thought Yilin, the shit shoveler, is so handsome. After Yilin rescued Emperor Wang Tian, she used her telekinesis to strike from a distance and instantly turned the two remaining tentacle tool monsters into bloody water, reuniting them as a family. After a while, the world around Yilin and Wang Tiandi became empty, quiet, and peaceful. How did you? Yilin was about to ask Emperor Wang Tian what was going on. But Wang Tiandi hugged Yilin's thigh tightly, trembling all over and looking frightened. As soon as Yilin saw Guza's expression and his eyes narrowed slightly, he could roughly guess what happened, and then asked no more questions. I originally thought that Guza was paddling all the way in Kanzaki City, but I didn't expect that Guza would also be severely beaten in the trial, and was frightened into such a ghostly state. You can imagine how large the shadow area in Guza's heart was at this moment. On the other side, something drastic seems to have happened in Kanzaki City. During the limited time of this world reorganization, more and more residents of Kanzaki City were transported to the world of curiosity. Among them were policemen, workers, doctors, nurses, and office workers in suits and ties. With the appearance of these ordinary people, the world of hunting becomes even more chaotic. Ghosts with strange shapes appeared out of thin air around the residents of Kanzaki City. After appearing, they began to attack all living creatures around them like crazy, including humans and ghosts. It's chaos, the world is in complete chaos. But in the chaos, Yilin also noticed something strange. The ghosts spawned from ordinary people will not actively attack the humans around them, but will choose other people to attack. After thinking for a moment, Yilin guessed the reason. Could it be that, like my mental image incarnation, the embodied incarnation will not actively attack the main body? No, that's not necessarily the case. After a while, Yilin lowered his head, observed the chaos below, and murmured to himself, the incarnation of mental images is probably not the only one that exists. Strong evil thoughts, wishes, obsessions, or it's the sudden burst of fear and desire for survival in despair, which may be manifested by some kind of power in this weird world. Yilin looked at the ground. In front of a handsome policeman, there was a ghost covered in riot shields. He was trying his best to block the attacks of other ghosts, which confirmed the following inference. The two worlds are mutually external and internal, and there is a passage that can connect them. Otherwise, Muto Iron would not be able to easily return to the other side. It is very likely that only ghosts can pass through this passage. Before the chaos broke out, the various evil thoughts of the citizens of Kanzaki City had already given birth to countless ghosts, entrenched here. The source of all tragedies currently seems to come from Gaia Kinmai, which is equivalent to Gage Kinmai's resentment, so the embodied world. Yilin raised her head and looked at the rain in the sky. After reassembling various fragmented clues, he was able to roughly reconstruct Gaiajiami's tragic life. The rain in the sky is like the sadness of Gaiajiam. The ghost on the ground is like the anger of Gaiajiamime. The fragmented world is like Gaiajiamime's body and mind after being tortured. Everything clicked. Call it. But the only thing Yilin still can't figure out is, why is it her? She is just an innocent and pitiful little girl. Why is it her? Moreover, Muto Iron seemed to know something. He accidentally mentioned that Gyakomi was also a poor person, and there was someone else who really directed all of this. Yilin believes that as long as he finds out the existence behind everything, he can unearth the deepest secret of this trial. The truth is not important. What is important is the deeper truth hidden behind the truth. When Yilin walked through the market with her trembling dog, the death mark on his chest trembled slightly. Yilin originally thought that Li Chang'e might contact him quietly. But he is a character who surprises Yilin, but not unexpectedly. Kudo. When Kudo Shinji gave out his name, Yilin thought he was sinister enough and gave a false name. Unexpectedly, he is actually fake and sinister but really upright. His name is Kudo Shinji. He perfectly blends into this world without breaking any rules. You actually died too. Kudo Shinji was panting. There were also a lot of high-pitched howls over there. It's like, Kudo Shinji is having fun with several female creatures. Yeah, if you're not careful, you'll die. Just like what she said to Banshin and others before, Yiren did not explain how she came to Gaiajiam's beautiful mental world. Not important anyway. Too many explanations, a waste of time. Just a moment. Kudo Shinji's tone suddenly changed, and then after hearing the messy sounds of fighting and gasping coming from over there, everything fell silent. It seemed that Kudo Shinji's play was over. 1 minute later, Kudo Shinji reorganized his words, I guess your main task too has not been completed. Do you want information? His words silenced Yilin for a moment. Various speculations kept pouring out in Yilin's mind, and were quickly rejected by Yilin. In the end, there was only one answer left. Yilin smiled and said, it seems that the real purpose of your question is to confirm something. On the other side of the voice call, Kudo Shinji heard a gasp. Yilin was too lazy to compete with Kudo Shinji, whose mental attributes were far inferior to his. It was just a dimensionality reduction attack and was meaningless. So Yilin casually expressed his speculation, you should have seen the real Pandora's box before you died, and you also learned that Pandora's box had been destroyed in some way. So what I really want to confirm is whether my main mission too is judged as a failure. How did you know? Kudo Shinji suddenly couldn't hold himself any longer and cursed loudly. Iron's ability to see through everything from a distance instantly defeated Kudo Shinji, who was full of confidence and thought he could secretly extract key information, and broke through the defense at the speed of light. "It's very simple," Yilin said matter-of-factly, "just think that you won't be so kind to come to the door because of such nonsense, think about it a little reversely, and after removing all the impossible answers, there is only this is the reason. But I am not a stingy person. It seems that you dare not go to Ban Chen. Are you afraid that he will seek revenge? Haha, forget it. Let's not talk nonsense. For the sake of you telling me the key information, I also kindly tell you that my main mission too is still there and has not been judged as a mission failure." Hiss. That is to say, Yilin and Kudo Shinji, two spiritual sides, confirmed one thing at the same time through various clues. "Here, there is a box too." The end. Yilin smiled and added, "The real Pandora's box. Kanzaki City. It's still that night. The long night is not over yet." Boom. 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 Manhole covers spewed up one after another. Dark blood, exuding a fishy smell, spewed out from the sewer pipes of Kanzaki Middle School like the boundless sea. In the blink of an eye, the black water spurted out more and more, as if it was reaching a climax. Gradually, the entire campus was submerged by the black water. Far away, Xiang Baxian, Chu Yalian, Chen Xiaoxiao, Wang Yang and others who luckily escaped survived a series of accidents. The few apostles looked at the scene blankly, not knowing what to do. "It's over. Could it be that the plot is ruined this time?" Wang Yang's face was ashen. The second main mission has obviously been completed, and the third main mission has just been released, but the world in front of me has become uncontrollable. Everyone can guess that something must have happened to the Pandora's box that they were happily touching not long ago. Involuntarily, everyone thought of a familiar legend. Pandora's box is a forbidden object that will never see the light of day. Once opened, all the evil in the world, greed, hypocrisy, slander, jealousy, pain, etc. will be released from the box, flooding the world and bringing destruction. Therefore, their original main mission was not to open the magic box, but to touch it quietly. Who the hell opened the magic box? Are you crazy? Xiang Baxian gritted his teeth. Now there is no mental side here to analyze the trial. He is a powerful side with a brain full of muscles and can only bite the bullet and speak out, "No. Impossible. Maybe it's just something similar, this kind of thing. How could something like that from a fairy tale appear in a level trial? If it is really that legendary prop, it would at least be a legendary prop. It can't be so easy for us to touch and touch. Yes. This is not a health and leisure club." Just when several strength side and agility side people were in a state of confusion, two figures emerged from the black water. Yurin held Oda Mai in one hand and walked out of the black water, all wet. Yilin walked on the water, and under the vigilant eyes of Xiang Baxian and others, he came to them 100 meters away, carefully placed Oda Mai on the ground, and said with a smile, "Kanzaki Temple." "What?" The others didn't react for a while. Yilin explained with a smile, "Although those bald monks are dead, they are from Kanzaki Temple. They are good at catching ghosts. There must be key clues to pass the customs in Kanzaki Temple." Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 576. I humming believe you. The words just fell. Among the few who survived, someone immediately jumped out angrily, pointed at Iron Muto's calm face and cursed, "If it weren't for you, if it weren't for that crazy woman on your team, would we have ended up like this? We would have cleared the level long ago. Yeah. Your team is a mess. Now I don't even drop relics, but I still kill people indiscriminately. I have a sick mind." Xiang Baxian, Wang Yang, Chu Yalian, and Chen Xiaoxiao had serious faces. Although they didn't point at Yilin's nose and curse like others. But their expressions and silence said it all. Even if they don't say it or mention it, there is always resentment in their hearts. If it weren't for the fear of Yilin's strength and the version update, the fighting between the apostles would no longer be of any benefit. They would have killed him long ago, and there would be no need to shout here. You have to give us an explanation. Chu Yalian thought for a while and said calmly. This sentence seems very peaceful, and it has the meaning of smoothing things over. But if you really think about it, it can actually be translated as, you must give us an explanation, otherwise we will take action and take revenge. Apostles are not easy characters to get along with. Most of them have problematic personalities and are inconsistent. If Yilin can't give a reasonable explanation, Oda Wu has killed so many people, even if Chu Yalian and Chen Xiaoxiao, who had contact with Yilin in this trial, really get into a fight, will not hesitate to do something dirty. You also know that this trial is extraordinary. Iron Muto looked helpless and sad, pointing at Mai Oda lying on the ground. I didn't want it either. She was controlled, so she exposed her true nature. Well, don't doubt it, it's just nature, you should all understand. Hummed. If Yilin didn't say that, others might not believe it. But even after saying nature, they subconsciously believed it. Because Yilin's explanation is too real. Which apostle does not have a child living in his heart? It's just that this kid was a little naughty and started killing people randomly. Muto Iron just finished speaking. Then he found that Oda Mai had woken up at some point, staring directly at him with a pair of indifferent eyes in the dark night, and his smile suddenly froze. Oda Mai knew part of the truth. She had already confirmed that the names of all her teammates were still on. Somehow she did not reveal Yilin's deception. She jumped up from the ground with a quick kick, patted the dust on her skirt, and looked expressionless. Expression, Kanzakiji Temple. Yes. Muto Iron smiled. You sure? At this time, you can only choose to believe me. The conversation between Muto Iron and Oda Mai seemed fine on the surface, but the real meaning was only understood by them. Of course, the real Yilin also understands, but it's a pity that he is not here. Let's go. Others didn't have time to think too much. At this time, Xiang Bassian suddenly looked in the direction of Kanzaki Middle School, his eyes widened, and his expression changed drastically. Run. The black water is coming. In the blink of an eye. The school of Nottingham University has long been deeply covered by black water. The surface of the black water, which was filled with an ominous smell, even had a layer of black air that was so rich that it was clearly visible under the night sky. One after another, the corpses with weird shapes made the crisp sound of bones and joints grinding together. They stood up again from the Episthetonous posture in the black water, their whole bodies were wet and stained with a layer of black. Some people recognized that among the corpses standing up, many were even apostle teammates who had died in the sewer just now, and they had come back to life again. In outrageous ways. Go, go, go. Without saying a word, they did not bother to hold Mai Oda accountable at the moment. Since Oda Mai did not continue to kill randomly after waking up, the others did not do anything to Mai Oda except staying away. In this way, on the surface it seems that they can barely coexist peacefully. Of course, the more real reason why they didn't avenge their former teammates was that, none of them had the confidence to cut down Mai Oda face to face in a one-on-one fight. These bitches are so cruel. Since I can't beat him. Of course, join her. Everyone stopped worrying about the causes and consequences, united as one, and ran with their heads down. Late at night. The incident at Kanzaki Middle School is still confined to one corner and has not yet spread. But Pandora's box has been shattered, and the black water surges out as if it is free. Everyone can guess that the whole world will undergo earth-shaking changes next. Have everyone completed their tasks? On the run. Xiang Baxian temporarily acted as the leader of the apostle team and asked loudly. The response from others was as expected. Except for the few people who initially launched their ultimate moves to attack the bloody jar, others also took advantage of the chaos and touched the box to complete the task. Everyone has a trump card. Sometimes they can complete tasks silently without attracting other people's attention. Even the low-key characters who can survive until now without lines, storyboards, or pictures may be the real hidden bosses and bosses. Fighter in the dark. Kanzakaiji Temple can actually be found on search engines. In chaos. Someone took his time and picked up his cell phone, searched for it, and found that he had actually found it. The others all trembled, not expecting it to come so easily. Everyone looked at Mutoiran. Mutoiran looked serious. To do the next task, we must have more clues. Wang Yang had already regained his senses at this moment, and said with a serious face, "Yes, the clues are very important, otherwise we wouldn't even know who the person we have to deal with in the end would be too passive. Let's go, Kanzakaiji Temple." Xiang Baxian shouted loudly, took a deep look at Mutoiran, quickly turned his head and came out of the cage first. He has been secretly observing this guy for a long time. I always feel like something is wrong. What about his teammate? That chick who shoots arrows at the slightest disagreement. Died. But there was no trace of sadness on this guy's face, so he was probably a ruthless character. Xiang Baxian cursed in his heart. In fact, many people want to ask why the list of dead people is still on, why have they turned into such monsters, and whether there is still a chance to return to their original appearance. Because of the characteristics of the Apostle's return, he can consume death points and repair almost all damage. I don't know whether this abnormality falls within the scope of repair. In fact, over the years, the repair function during return has been discussed for a long time, and it has even spawned many interesting stories. It is said that some people's friends were once hummed, filled, or even pregnant during the trial, but after they returned to repair, they were tested again, and they were once again a shy young lady. One can imagine how awesome the Apostle's repair function was when he returned. Therefore, although they did not ask such boring questions, there were still many people who relied on the repair function to resurrection their teammates. After all, their names were still on, right? I really hope that when they return, they will still be strong men. Leave no indelible scars or holes. Within Kanzaki City, in this dead night, black water is flooding everything at a terrifying speed. School. The way. Garden. Architecture. Custom shop. Suburbs. Subway. If someone were to look down at the city at this time, they would be lucky enough to witness this horrifying scene. In the city with scattered lights, a pure and rich ink color formed from a small point into a huge circle and quickly spread to the surroundings. Wherever the thick ink is splashed, there is no longer any light, only pure, ultimate, and desperate blackness remains. Hiss. By the way, have any of you seen Kudo? Only then did someone notice that Kudo Shinji was running the fastest but disappeared. Must have sneaked away. Xiang Baxian had long disdained the boy's unintentional insidiousness and spat. Through navigation, he shows the way for others. Right now, most people are characters who have touched Pandora's box and completed the second main quest. Of course they also knew the content of main task 3. But the warm reminder when the main mission 2 was released was still fresh in their minds. Although everyone was wondering who Gaia Kinmei was, no one took the initiative to ask, and they didn't dare to mention it, so they just went on their way. What if something happens if you say it out loud? The current situation is weird enough. No one wants to be a crouching dragon and a phoenix, delivering dung in the snow to the stunning scenery. Fortunately, the agility attributes of those who survived were not too low. Even Xiang Baxian, who looked a little fat, ran like a very nimble little fat man, running at the front, for fear of falling behind. In the end, I was accidentally swallowed up by the black tide. Another advantage of running fast is that there is always someone watching your back. Don't be afraid that something will suddenly appear behind you, and your heart will be ripped out from behind. Too many people died in this trial, so everyone has to be careful. If we lose more people, who will kill the final boss Wraith Spirit Gyakomi? About half an hour later, the survivors arrived at the foot of Mount Kanzaki. Kanzaki City, Kanzaki Mountain, Kanzaki Temple. It's a simple and crude naming method, and I don't know who named it this way. Mount Kanzaki is located to the east on the city map, and there are even buses that can reach it. It is said online that this is a tourist attraction and prayers are very effective. The most amazing thing is that there was once a couple who had been unable to have a child all year round, so they came to Kanzaki Temple to burn a stick of incense. Master Yunfan of Kanzaki Temple practiced the practice for 2 days and 2 nights in a secret room for the wife. 10 months later, the couple gave birth to twins, one with a darker complexion and one with a lighter complexion. It was a real joy to congratulate them. It is said that after that incident, more people believed that Kanzaki Temple was blessed with blessings, and over time the incense here became ridiculously strong. The dark mountain road was deserted. A winding stone road passes through the dense forests of the hills and goes straight to the top of the mountain. There's something wrong with the atmosphere. Xiang Baxian originally wanted to rush up the mountain, but the strange calm at the foot of Shenkai Temple made him immediately retreat. No one can enter the woods at night, everyone knows this. But if you don't enter, you won't be able to enter Kanzaki Temple, which is a logistical problem. Haha, you crawl slowly, I won't accompany you anymore. At this time, a handsome man chuckled and crushed a card. The light of the card turned into a mini propeller toy in the man's hand. The man slapped the propeller against the Tianling cover, and the next second, the mini toy propeller strangely took the man into the air. Although the speed is not fast, he actually flies. Wang Yang's expression was shocked, with a trace of greed and envy on his face, and he whispered, "It's a rare flying prop. I don't know if the equipment is a prop with a limit on the number of times. If it is equipment, what a pity." It was quiet at night. Others also heard Wang Yang's words clearly. They understand better what the phrase "what a pity" means. Because when the man took out the flying props, they also felt it was a pity. It seems that everyone's views on the cancellation of Reliquary Box are surprisingly unanimous. I'll take the first step. The handsome man has hidden his strength until now, but once the tip of the iceberg is revealed, everyone will be shocked. But at this time, they could only watch the handsome man slowly fly towards the top of the mountain. Hateful. Chu Yalian was a little unhappy. It seems like you can fly if you hold her in your arms. Why didn't the man I matched with this time let the beautiful woman take advantage of her? Just as the others were hesitant to enter the woods and go straight to Kanzaki Temple. Far away. Mid-air. A scream echoed through the night sky. Several golden Zen rods shot out from the top of the mountain at the same time, like hitting a big bird, and suddenly struck out without warning, pinning down the handsome man flying in the air. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, Bai Yi Shueshi. Chapter 577. Li Chang'e walked on the road. High-spirited. Handsome and attractive. His whole body flashes with special effects. A solemn and upright person. Fight. Mako. Kill with curse. Li Chang'e no longer hides his strength. The ghost pounced on Li Chang'e. Li Chang'e pinched Genzi's body, and the little female spirit wearing a dress with a gloomy expression behind him suddenly flexed its limbs, trembled, and let out a delicate gasp. I saw one after another light black light falling from Mako's hand to the approaching ghost. After a while, the ghost that rushed towards him started to fester all over and turned into pus. Every time Li Chang'e squeezed Zhenzi, he would make a shallow cut on his arm with Beifang invincible sword. It doesn't matter whether you are injured or not. What is important is that you must see blood in order to withstand the side effects of using the cursed enchanted weapon, the bloody disaster. As long as blood is seen, it is considered a bloody disaster, right? Zhenzi was panting behind Li Chang'e. She kindly reminded, Master, if you continue like this, your ability will backfire. In fact, Mako doesn't need to remind him. Li Chang'e knew it himself. His self-mutilation method, which can be called cheating, can only offset the small bloody disaster. But with the continuous use of cursed enchanted weapons, the price paid will become greater and greater. Once the cost does not match the intensity of Li Chang'e's self-mutilation, Li Chang'e can imagine that his end will be tragic if he uses his mind for a moment. I know. Li Chang'e gritted his teeth, his expression as firm as iron, completely unlike the coward Li Chang'e who had deliberately pretended to be in the past. He used force to make a deep gash on his arm, and blood spurted out like it was free. Damn it! A large blood vessel was scratched. Li Chang'e hurriedly bandaged the wound and said to Zhenzi, every time I try, I deliberately fish in troubled waters and hide my strength until now. It was the past, but it is different now. Li Chang'e took a deep breath. We are in team mode now. The president will bring me into the team only if he believes in me. I, Li Chang'e, can't be looked down upon by others and let others think that I am the one holding the team back. What a scumbag. Owner. The indifferent black eyes of the little mother, Ling Zhenzi, were filled with strange colors. She was moved by Li Chang'e's rare display of energy. Zaza. Boom, 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 boom. The ghosts around were not just staring at Li Chang'e. Many humans in Kanzaki Temple came here, and ghosts were born out of thin air, killing them into pieces. There were also many ferocious ghosts who disappeared alive from in front of Li Chang'e. Weird things are gradually happening. Li Chang'e has long been numb. He wholeheartedly searched for the place Yi Lin mentioned in this chaotic and fragmented world. A lake, or a classroom. The boss's guess is definitely not wrong. The true nature of Gaijiamaimi must be in that place. Li Chang'e couldn't care less about his mission. He hasn't even completed his main mission. But it doesn't matter. Anyway, if he really wants to find a solution on his own, he has no clue about the second main task. Thinking about it, even if Yi Lin occasionally tried to trick him, she would not be cruel enough to trick him to death. Li Chang'e, who has been tricked out of Stockholm Syndrome, still has a lot of confidence in this point. If you follow the boss, the outcome will always be good. A hoarse accent came faintly, Zaza. Kill with curse. Li Chang'e felt that he had killed a lot, but when he looked at the knife marks on his arm, including the depth, there were only 6 marks in total. It just forms the character with an extra horizontal line. It seems that we need to continue to work hard, at least 2 positive words, right? He usually has at least 1 positive person in a night. The voice is getting closer and closer, Zaza. Li Chang'e finally couldn't hold it in any longer. Although he felt that the voice was not talking about him, it still sounded a bit harsh. He looked around blankly, and asked the little mother spirit Mako floating behind him, speaking of Mako-chan, have you ever heard someone calling other people scumbag? Zhenzi replied with some certainty but also some uncertainty, Master, Zhenzi feels like he is calling you. How is it possible, me? Boo-hoo-hoo. Far away. A long arrow with a thick wrist, which may no longer be described as an arrow, but a siege crossbow may be more appropriate, was shot in the direction of Li Chang'e. When Li Chang'e saw the dark shadow above his head, his scalp was numb with fear. He had no time to pretend, so he used his hands and feet to run backwards like crazy. Laugh. But Li Chang'e still ran a few steps slower, and a siege crossbow passed through Li Changa's shoulder from behind, shooting him dozens of meters away, and nailed him to the floor with a bang. Puff. Li Changa's health was instantly reduced by half, and he spat out a mouthful of blood, dyeing the surrounding ground red. Boom, 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 boom. Looking around, the area covered by the siege crossbow is 100 square meters in diameter. After a wave of siege arrows fell, all the ghosts affected were shot into hedgehogs, indeed hedgehogs, but the thorns were a little thicker and longer. In the blink of an eye, all the fighting ghosts around him turned into pitch-black blood. Within 100 square meters, only Li Changa was left, who was nailed to the floor, lying there alone. Boom, 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 boom. Li Changa looked at the hedgehog ghost in the distance with horrified eyes. I saw that the hedgehog ghost was 3 meters tall, with slender limbs. The legs alone took up 1.5 meters, and his whole body was covered with dark holes. In those holes, black blood kept flowing out. The monster's face showed exquisite facial features, slender ears, and a ferocious face. Its pupil-less eyes exuded boundless resentment as it stared at Li Changa in the distance. Ouch! After feeling severe pain, Li Changa looked numb and pulled out the siege crossbow bolt stuck on his shoulder. Unfortunately, he didn't pull it out. More than half of the nearly 1 meter long siege arrow was nailed to the floor. All around Li Changa, siege arrows were inserted upside down, like a mass grave. "You're not here for me, are you?" The hedgehog ghost made a vague and hoarse sound. "It's like being filled with anger and grinding your teeth from the gaps in your teeth." Zaza! Zaza! Zaza song! Li Changa might not admit the scumbag in the front, but he understood the scumbag song at the end. Li Changa looked confused. It turned out he was really here for me. How have I offended you? Is it too late to change now? There is something wrong with you. The hedgehog ghost trembled all over. There are hundreds of holes in the body, and serous fluid spurts out wildly. But when the black blood poured out, it quickly condensed into pitch-black arrows. At a glance, those arrows were thicker than the ones just now. If they were inserted again, Li Changa felt that his head might be blown to bits and he wouldn't even have a chance to pull it out. Ruined. Li Changa struggled even more crazily, and his despair produced stronger special effects. A dazzling golden light burst out from Li Changa and shot straight into the sky. The heavy rain falling all over the sky paused for a moment under Li Changa's angry special effects. Mako stared blankly as the golden light special effects rapidly transformed and condensed in mid-air, like rounds of the scorching sun. Looking closer, it turned out to be 4 characters plus a symbol. It turns out that after that world dies, this is the real battlefield. Kudo Shinji activates his ability, Thunder and Lightning. He is a rare spiritual type who is good at close combat. Fire pattern, Burning Wasteland. With a flash of light, the blue electric light on Kudo Shinji's longsword turned into red flames in an instant, and the raging flames burned the surrounding ghosts to ashes. No, these ghosts are endless and they can't be killed. If this continues, they will only be depleted of their spiritual energy. After Kudo Shinji broke out of the siege, he began to think. After talking to Yilin, he had a deeper understanding of the nature of this trial. Pandora's box must be the key to creating all tragedies. Although he's done his job on the other side. But that doesn't mean it's over. The third main task is to eliminate the Wraith Spirit Gaejiamaime. Only by finding this monster can the third main task be completed. But where is the beauty of Gaejiam? Kudo Shinji once explored Yilin's mouth. Yilin said helplessly, "I don't know." Although Kudo Shinji knew that half of what the guy said was unbelievable, he could not force Yiren to tell the truth, so he could only temporarily accept Yiren's statement. Kakaka dash. Suddenly, Kudo Shinji was resting and recovering his spiritual energy. There was a strange movement overhead. He raised his head, and saw spider ghosts with weirdly bent limbs and looks exactly like Ban Chen, entrenched on the walls and ceiling, dripping with saliva. Kudo Shinji looked at the large area in front of him with dozens of spider banshin in shock. He was silent for 5 seconds, and finally couldn't help but squeeze out one word from his mouth. Grass. Explore corners of the world. In a world of fragmentation and chaos, everything becomes strange and unpredictable. In the sky and underground, countless strangely cut three-dimensional geometric spaces are piled up into strange buildings. One by one, fierce ghosts were moving on the surface of the building. Countless humans howled, cried, and screamed among the ghosts. This is hell. Yulin witnessed with her own eyes that the humans who were sent to this world had a moment of respite due to the protective ghosts limited by their desire to survive. But he couldn't survive for long, and he was soon torn into pieces by the evil spirits that manifested the evil thoughts in other people's hearts. Ordinary people in Kanzaki City cannot survive in this world for long. It turns out to be revenge. Yuren vaguely realized the purpose of Gaejium from the tragic scenes. Her revenge no longer has any fixed goal, and her life is a tragedy. If Xiao Kaiyu's experience is also related to Gaejium, then her resentment has begun to accumulate a long time ago. What happened in Kanzaki Middle School was just a tipping point. Yulin looked at the world in front of him with a calm expression, letting Gozi hold his thigh, unmoved. After several world reorganizations, Yulin has actually discovered one of the ways to clear the level. Maybe it's a shortcut. But his only worry is that once he takes the shortcut, a more terrifying Yulin will be born. The shortcut is to kill all the humans in Kanzaki City. The ghosts in front of you are all manifestations of the evil thoughts in the hearts of humans in Kanzaki City. If the main body truly dies, the corresponding ghosts will disappear instantly. In fact, this was one of the reasons why Muto Iron had no choice but not to dare to kill himself. But Yulin pulled out a card from the storage space, shook her head and chuckled. Gaia Kinmai, is this what you want to see? Resentment itself will only give birth to more resentment. If I really take this shortcut, it may not lead to a happy end, but a kind of a more terrifying ending. The team is wiped out. That's right, the group was destroyed. A fake Yuren is already tricky. Yulin could not imagine what it would be like if more him were born. Yulin is confident about this. With his current strength, he would be at the level of a super boss in any trial of the same level. Yuren crushed the card. The light of the card reorganized into an old compass in Yulin's hands. Yulin closed her eyes and tried to brew her emotions. Where the compass points, where the heart leads. First of all, what should we look for? Yulin smiled slightly and pondered for a few seconds, knowing clearly in her heart that she had made her choice. A moment later, the compass pointer that was swinging back and forth, left, right, and up and down suddenly froze, pointing straight to somewhere in the split space ahead. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 578. For some special situations. Compass from the heart has practical functions and no side effects. Apart from the flaw in the frequency limit, it can be called an epic prop with bugs. At the very least, every time Yulin uses it, as long as he knows exactly what he is looking for, there will be nothing he cannot find. This time, Yuren's goal is Gaejium beauty. As long as we find the true Gaejium beauty, I believe that the riddle of this trial, or all the doubts, will be solved. The rotating pointer of the compass suddenly froze in Yulin's hand, pointing somewhere. Ordinary ghosts no longer pose a threat to Yulin. Yulin followed the pointer and stepped on the void, crossing the geometric buildings with unique shapes. The range of movement of the pointer decreases. He came to a dark mirror 100 meters high. In fact, this may not be a mirror. But its material is as smooth as a mirror, and the ghostly faces around it are clearly visible on the mirror, so it is just a mirror. The weird thing is, Yulin stood in front of the mirror, but his reflection was not reflected. His shadow disappeared. Ran away. Yulin looked down at the pointer, then looked up at the empty mirror, suddenly smiled and rushed in. The scene in front of her was unpredictable, and the mirror surface was like water, easily wrapping Yulin in it. When Yulin regained her sight again, she had arrived on a seemingly ordinary street. On the street, an expressionless passerby walked aimlessly like a zombie. Compared with the world outside, here there is blue sky, fresh air, and no black rain pouring down. Just like an ordinary city, ordinary streets. Yo. It looks a bit familiar. Yulin looked at the street signs on the side and the passers-by passing by, thoughtfully. Boom. With an expressionless face, Yulin raised his gun and smashed the head of a passerby in a suit in front of him. The expression of the man in a suit who passed by did not change at all until he died, and he was as numb as a corpse. Yulin casually killed a passerby without any emotion in her heart. I see. Yulin said to herself again. A passerby was shot in the head in the street. Other passers-by didn't even look at it and still passed by Yulin as if nothing had happened. Boom. The second. Boom. The third. Yulin shoots as he pleases. When Yulin reached the sixth kill, all the pedestrians on the road strangely turned their heads at the same time. They stared at Yulin with indifferent eyes. Hello, say hello. Yulin chuckled. After the passerby finally responded, he stopped firing. In the depths of the indifferent eyes of all passers-by, the reflection of Gaiajiame appeared at the same time. The Gaiajiame appeared in the pupils one by one, looking at Yulin with a complicated expression. Yulin's keen perception was enough for him to notice that something was wrong with the surrounding atmosphere. But Yulin didn't seem to notice, and even hummed a song, looking a little happy. She lowered her head and glanced at the direction pointed by the compass pointer, then casually opened a door to someone else's house next to her. Behind the door, the imaginary room did not appear. The moment Yulin opened the door, she came to a bustling downtown in the blink of an eye. Yulin had already visited this place on the first night after arriving in Kanzaki City, and compared it with the map in his memory. In the current scene, except for the strange expressions of passers-by, all the scene arrangements were exactly the same as in Yulin's memory, without any changes. The moment Yulin appeared, the passers-by who were moving according to their own trajectories stopped instantly. How many people are around Yulin? 1,000? 10,000? 100,000? Yulin didn't have the intention to count them in detail, but thousands of pedestrians stopped all movements at the same moment, and looked directly at her with the same indifferent expression. Those pairs of eyes were empty and heartless, as if they were lost. Puppet of the soul. If it were anyone else, they might be too frightened to move and feel creepy. But Yulin naturally won't be afraid. He has already deduced the nature of this trial world, and even the two spaces of Kanzaki City and the world of adventure. It's just that to deconstruct the most critical puzzle piece of the complete answer, it needs to be verified with one's own eyes before it can be filled in. Yulin noticed that something was wrong with his mentality at the moment. The difficulty of the trial cannot bring much pressure to Yulin at this moment. Even if another Muto Iron with similar abilities and attributes was born due to some kind of power, Iron, except for being slightly surprised, did not have any negative emotions such as fear, anger, resentment, etc. Perhaps, this is related to the fact that Yulin's strength is far beyond the same level. At this time, Yulin only wanted to know the answer behind the truth. Perhaps because of curiosity, Yulin wanted to find out who was hiding behind all this, causing Gaiajiame's tragedy. Yulin walked through the crowd and arrived in front of a convenience store. In the crowded crowd, everyone's heads followed Yulin's movements, moving their eyes. Some people even turned their heads 180 degrees and came to their backs, clearly no longer worthy of being their sons. Yulin turned a blind eye, opened the door, and came to an empty park again. In the park, there are many mothers playing with their children. When Yilin appeared, everyone stopped what they were doing. One of them, a little girl with black hair, looked at Yilin timidly. Ah! Yilin walked past the black-haired girl, got under the slide arch, and crossed again. There are doors that connect different spaces, and places that seem ordinary but strange. Yilin looks at the compass guidance and clearly counts how many scenes he has passed through. Finally, after traveling 101 times, he visited almost every corner of Kanzaki City again and looked at the faces of almost every Kanzaki City resident. Finally, Yilin finally came to a familiar street. This street is deserted. The compass needle changed direction again, pointing directly at a house 10 meters away. Next to the house, an old sticker has the house number written on it, and 3 words are written at the bottom. Tananoya. This is the home of Chie Tanano. Yilin has been here. Oh. Yilin raised his eyebrows slightly, a little surprised, but after thinking about it carefully, it seemed that all the weirdness and contradictions in the trial had been reasonably explained after Yilin arrived here. I see. Yilin lowered his head and smiled before pushing the door open and entering. The house is covered with clean tatami mats, and pairs of shoes are neatly placed on the shoe cabinet at the entrance. The furnishings in the house appear to be in order, and it is obvious that someone is taking good care of them. Yilin was silent for a moment at the entrance, took off her shoes, and walked into the house wearing only her socks. In the small but cozy living room, a gentle and elegant middle-aged father was sitting on the sofa reading a newspaper with a smile. A mother with a good figure and a kind face is busy in the open kitchen wearing an apron, and the tempting smell of cooking comes from the pot with white mist next to it. The aroma is so exciting. Yilin's entry did not alarm the parents. The father was still reading the newspaper and the mother was still cooking. Yilin clearly did not turn on "Follow Me" like a shadow, but neither of her parents looked at Yilin, the intruder, as if Yilin at this moment had become a piece of monkey playing air isolated from the world. Right now. Compass from the heart. The pointer flicked suddenly and pointed behind Yilin, which was the direction of the entrance from where Yilin came. Click. The key was inserted into the keyhole, the sound of turning the lock cylinder was heard, and Chie Tanano came jumping in. Dad, Mom, Kinhui is back. Chie's father looked away from the newspaper and saw that Chie Tanano hadn't even taken off her shoes. He raised his head and feigned anger and scolded, "You kid, how many times have I told you to take off your shoes when you come home? Look, you've stepped on the tatami mat dirty." Yano Chie stuck out her tongue, shrank her neck, and made a face at her father's back. This face happened to be seen by her mother, who was walking out of the kitchen carrying a pot. The mother and daughter looked at each other and smiled, and each made a face. Playful expression. After changing her shoes, Chie Tanano sat down at the dining table, swaying her calves in white stockings, and twitching her nose. Ah! It smells so good. It's Chie's favorite curry. Only your nose is good. Mother scratched Tanano Chie's nose lovingly, patted Yano Chie's finger as she prepared to put it into the pot, and said with a smile, "I'm so greedy for you. It's just come out of the oven and it's still hot. If you want to eat, go get a bowl. Look how anxious you are. Mom, you don't love me anymore. Chie Tanyi pretended to cry and act like a baby, but she still washed her hands obediently, took the bowl, and served it to the table, all in one go. Yilin was standing nearby, and the 3 members of the family all regarded Yilin as heir. In front of Yilin's eyes, a warm daily life was staged that even Yilin could not help but envy. At this time, compass from the heart. The pointer faces and changes position as Chie Tanano moves around the house. Obviously, Yilin's target is Tanano Chie. But what he clearly positioned was Gaijiami. That's it? This time, there was a bit of sadness in Yilin's words. He walks step by step towards Tanano Chie at the dinner table. The movement is slow, slow, slow. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps. Yilin came behind the thin back of Tanyijia and slowly stretched out her hand. Suddenly, Jia Tanino, who was drinking curry soup, suddenly raised her head and said with a smile to her handsome father who was sitting on the sofa in the living room reading a newspaper. "Dad, did you know that our school has a new art teacher today?" "Oh? Is that why my Kinhui is so happy?" "Yes," the teacher praised Kinhui's painting for how beautiful it is. "Really?" Kinhui's father looked away from the newspaper, and his gentle eyes fell on Kinhui's innocent smiling face, with light in his eyes. "Then we have to invite the teacher to our house for a meal some other day." "Thank you very much." "Yeah, Jia Tanino nodded vigorously and smiled happily. "Teacher Muto, you are so gentle." When Yilin heard Jia Tanino mention art teacher, he suddenly paused when he reached out to Jia Tanino's hand. But when the conversation between father and daughter ended, Yilin sighed softly and continued to move her hands. "So?" Yano Jia turned her head without warning. She, who had always regarded Yilin as nothing, finally looked directly into Yilin's eyes at this moment. At this time, Yilin's palm had been stretched out in front of Tanino Jia, only a few centimeters away from the joyful girl's face. Love disappears, right? Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 579. Kanzaki City. In front of Kanzaki Temple. The cruel death of the handsome apostle who spiraled into the sky and crashed into the sky did not have a big impact on the morale of the survivors. If you die, you will die. So what? Do I want to give you a grave? Too many people have died. Everyone is numb. On the contrary, the Golden Zen staff flew out from the grove, and others suddenly understood one thing: there are other bald heads here. The survivors have long understood the power of baldness. The bald heads may not have weird and unpredictable abilities, but they have high attack and defense, specialize in weirdness, and are resistant to being hummed. They are extremely difficult and give the survivors a huge headache. Just when the survivors were confused, they didn't know whether they should take action or not. Strange movements gradually came from far behind them. Everyone heard the movement and looked back. At the same time, their limbs trembled in shock and they cried out. I saw the black water pouring out of the sewer of Kanzaki Middle School, covering the sky and the moon, darker than the night, thicker than the slurry, in the sea of chaos, all the chaos, floating objects, the golden black emperor. I am here, I beg you, cough cough cough, it's over. In short, the black water turned into a black wave with a height of more than 10 meters, flooding this strange city. At the top of the black wave, the black water seemed to come alive, twisting into tentacle-like shapes and surging towards the side. The scene in front of me was like a tsunami coming and the end of the world. It's the end of the city. In the extreme black, there are white little dots undulating with the waves. The apostle with good eyesight squinted and took a closer look. After barely seeing the shape of those white dots, he couldn't help but exclaimed, The black water is full of ghosts. There are still people. Who? Wang Yang asked with a frown on the side. The living, the dead, and the people who are beginning to be resurrected. Hiss. The sound of gasping for cold air was heard in one continuous voice. Everyone suddenly felt their scalps explode, their hair stood on end, and they were very frightened. It's not that the survivors have poor psychological quality. They have gone through various trials, and no matter how weird things they encounter, they should be able to maintain their superficial composure, and remain calm even if the mountain collapses. Unless you can't help it. They couldn't hold back any longer, and some even hit the ground with force, making a loud bang sound, and didn't even notice blood was drawn from their fists, in order to vent their anxiety. In addition to behind them, in other directions, waves of black waves rose higher and higher. It is conceivable that the entire Kanzaki city will be submerged by the black tide, and no one will be spared. Ah! At this moment, A sneer clearly reached everyone's ears. This hidden disdainful laughter, uttered at this time, is tantamount to adding fuel to the fire. Someone looked back and saw Yilin shaking his head and smiling, with a look in his eyes that seemed to say, "The seniors of this year are not very good." Someone was so angry that someone pointed directly at Yilin's nose and said coldly, "Why are you laughing? If we can't complete the main mission, all of us will die. Do you think you can't die because you are so powerful?" Not long ago, many people were filled with resentment because of Oda Mai's mass killings in the sewers. At this moment, Yilin's sneer was like the ignition of a powder keg. Even Xiang Baxian, Chu Yalian, and Chen Xiaoxiao couldn't help but glare at Yilin. "Do you understand my expression?" Muto Iron asked, pointing to his face. The supporting characters also raised a question mark. Muto Iron sighed and shook his head. "The seniors in this class are not very good." Someone was angry. Xiang Baxian squinted his eyes, and when he saw that others were about to beat up this hateful guy, he calmed down, stretched out his hand to stop him, and said in a deep voice, "Wait, don't do it yet, listen to what this guy said. I'll beat you if you're not satisfied. Don't be embarrassed by anyone then." The murderous intention that was about to start was suppressed. Muto Yilin glanced at Xiang Baxian, his smile did not diminish, and he did not pay attention to the threats of others gearing up. He began to explain in a pleasant tone, "I think you have wasted so much time here, and even doesn't anyone know Gaia Kinmei?" When Iron Muto said that name, everyone's expressions changed suddenly, and some even subconsciously pulled out their weapons and looked around cautiously, fearing that some monsters might jump out of nooks and crannies and harvest their lives. Chu Yalian stared at those watery eyes. The cartoon patterns on his clothes were squeezed into a pitiful Y shape. With a little more force, they were squeezed into an even more exaggerated S shape. At some point, she took out a cute hammer and put it between her legs, her voice trembling, "How dare you, you want to kill all of us." "Can't you say her name easily?" Muto Iron didn't take it seriously and smiled, "The prompt is obvious, it's just can't be easily, not absolutely not. At this time, all of us are being targeted. It doesn't make any difference if we say it or not." Before he finished speaking, Muto Iron casually touched his side and made a touch his head motion. Others didn't notice Muto Iron's weird movements, but Oda Mai just frowned and raised the long knife at her waist, but didn't say much. The tide is approaching all around, and time is running out. Seeing that time was running out, Muto Iron did not give in and kept talking. "In this trial, there is one most critical person, Gaia Kotomi, and all the preparations in the early stage are actually to investigate and find out Gaia Kotomi the truth about the Japanese Kinmei incident. Once you know the truth of the whole thing, it is not difficult to pass the test." The origin of the whole thing actually came from a school violence case 5 years ago. 5 years ago, Gaia Giamaimi was the protagonist of a school violence incident and died in that incident. At that time, due to the collusion between the school and the police, and the fact that many of the bullies had certain backgrounds in Kanzaki City, this matter was suppressed and left unsolved, which planted a seed of hatred for what happened today. Everyone's breath froze when they heard this. In fact, it was not because they were deceived by Iron Muto. In fact, since arriving in Kanzaki City, many of them have grasped sporadic clues. However, because there are too few clues, with their muscular heads, they cannot analyze the whole thing. But Yilin's simple words made them involuntarily connect his words with the clues they had. This connection is amazing and echoes. Call it. So they subconsciously began to accept Yilin's statement. "Let's go. Talk as you go, or it will be too late." In the middle of speaking, Muto Iron stopped abruptly and did not continue to elaborate. He stepped on the winding stone road and walked up the mountain. Oda Mai lowered her head and hesitated for a moment. She was somewhat reluctant to look back and looked at the black wave hundreds of meters away, approaching at a terrifying speed. At this moment, the distance of hundreds of meters has allowed others to faintly distinguish the true appearance of those white dots in the black. The twisted limbs are floating and sinking, as if they will be swallowed up by the black water at any time, but they are going up and down. How can they die? Not completely dead, twisting and turning. With just one glance, Oda-mai put away her gaze and followed closely behind Muto Iron. She clearly knew that the Yiren in front of her was a fake, but he had all the memories of the real Yiren. Compared with the temptation of cutting something strange, Oda-mai was more curious about this fake who had all the memories of Yiren. What exactly do you want to do? But it can't be killed. Oda-mai stepped into the darkness, her eyes flickering, and no one could hear her soft whisper. Oda-mai's various actions in this trial seemed chaotic, and they were all carried out with murderous intent. But in fact, there is hidden the unique behavioral logic of Oda-mai. She has always wanted to cut something different in order to achieve a breakthrough. One day, she discovered that Yilin's flesh texture was different from that of normal humans, which gave her an urge to hack him alive. But she felt that this seemed a bit bad, so Oda-mai, who was a little tangled, finally chose to follow Yiren. But gradually, she couldn't explain why, but her original intention was still there, but she was a little reluctant to kill it. Not quite willing to give up. She was so convinced. Until this trial, Oda-mai discovered a fake Yiren who had the same flesh quality as Yiren, or even better. After discovering that Yilin was a fake, Oda-mai felt complicated. While she was angry, she was also secretly happy. I can finally chop with my hands without any worries. She also really cut it? I just didn't expect that I couldn't kill it. What to do? Oda-mai lowered her head, and a faint smile rarely appeared from the corner of Oda-mai's mouth. Maybe, when she can kill the fake, her knife will be able to get closer to the realm that the master said. At the same time, after Oda-mai followed suit, she followed Muto Iron a few steps and started going up the mountain. The remaining survivors staying at the foot of the mountain, look at me and I look at you. But they did not hesitate for too long, because the current situation did not allow them to hesitate any longer. Now they have no choice. They can either be swallowed up by the black water surrounding them from all directions, or they can be ruthless and fight their way up the mountain to fight for a chance of survival. In fact, including Xiang Baxian and a few others, at the end of the trial, they all regretted why they chose the most difficult Eternal Night level trial because their minds were so excited. But in fact, the reasons why so many people choose Eternal Night level are almost the same. Firstly, it was because after the version update, this was the first batch of trial door modes that allowed them to choose the difficulty independently. The keyword also made them relax their vigilance, and it seemed that Eternal Night level was nothing more than that. Secondly, the new wishing pool lottery mechanism has stimulated the gambler mentality of the apostles. They have to enter the trial anyway, and those who have a certain degree of confidence in their own strength think that it is better to take a lucky vote, which is risky. The bigger the reward, the bigger the reward. Once you get some epic level props, you'll get your money back. No matter how bad it is, having more death points and allowing them to fire 10 shots in a row would be great. What if these 10 consecutive draws changed my fate against the will of heaven? Among the group of apostles who died, there were even some who didn't know that there was a difficulty level of Eternal Night above Nightmare level and Nightmare level before this. It is said that there will be a lot of horror stories about the Eternal Night level trial circulating on the forum in the future. Those who are lucky enough to survive are the spreaders of this terror. The first batch of Eternal Night level doors trapped a number of high-level veterans to death. In the future, someone would use a sentence to remember these brave men who took the initiative to break into the Eternal Night level trial. When others fear them, they are greedy, when others are hurt, they become cold. Of course, these are all things for later, let's not mention them for now. After going up the mountain, looking at the backs of Yilin and Oda-mai shrouded in darkness in front of them, Chen Xiaoxio's eyes glowed with green light, she smiled slightly, and whispered her thoughts. The more it is a decryption type trial, and I believe in the judgment of a spiritual person, the survival rate will be greatly improved. And you haven't discovered. Chen Xiaoxiao quietly pointed at Yilin's back. Did he laugh from the beginning to the end? He didn't pay attention to the difficulty of this trial at all. Chen Xiaoxiao said this. Others thought back too. Yilin, he seems to be ridiculously calm. It turns out this is the boss. Someone suddenly understood and finally understood. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 580. So, love disappears, right? Yanochia looked at Yilin. All smiles. Yes. Yilin narrowed her eyes slightly and replied without hesitation. The next second, Yilin's eyes turned cold, and he stretched out his hand towards Qin and quickly thrust it out. Before she turned into Ling Yi's appearance, he grabbed Qin neck with one hand and lifted the weak girl up. Giggle. As Yilin's 5 fingers exerted force, Tananochia's thin neck was tightly clamped, her entire face turned purple, hanging in the air, her limbs swinging up and down, struggling endlessly. Her parents stopped all movements the moment Yilin strangled Yanochia's neck. Note that this is everything in the true sense, including breathing, heartbeat, and the parents, as if time has been frozen, stopped in their original position, motionless. Even the steaming curry soup on the dining table was frozen in mid-air, gathering together and not dispersing, which was strange and inexplicable. This space is not normal. Yilin didn't pay attention to the weird scenes that were going on at the moment. She just stared at Tananochia's face, carefully watching her changes, full of vigilance. Eternal Night Level Trial, after all, is not an outing, nor is it a game where you can load files and restart after death. Once you are careless, even if Yilin has broken through the lock of humans, her strength far exceeds that of the same level, and her vitality is tenacious, it is very likely that it will be folded here and end with hatred. Explain. Yilin's expression was calm, and there was no trace of pity in her eyes. What ingredient are you in Gaiagium's beauty? This strange question made a flash of surprise appear in Yanochia's eyes, but she grabbed Yilin's arm with both hands. In the pain of suffocation, she managed to squeeze out a few broken words. Wu, Teng, old, teacher. Yilin originally wanted to squeeze Tananochia to death. Because this is not the real Chia Tanano. Even if it is really, forget it. There is no need to discuss such cruel issues that dig deep into human nature at this time. Yilin frowned slightly. He looked at Tananochia in his hand, his breathing gradually became weak, and his pupils gradually dilated. Like a delicate flower, it quickly withered and withered in his hands. This feeling, even though she knew it was fake, made Yilin feel a little ripple in her heart. To put it simply, it is uncomfortable. Slightly uncomfortable. But why? What is the purpose of Gaiagium's beauty? Just like the way Gaiagium sent Yiren to this curious world, it was also so weird that Yiren still can't figure it out. Wrong. Suddenly, Yilin frowned. Wrong. This is not right. It shouldn't be like this. Even if it is an eternal night trial, it is theoretically impossible to have no solution. Yilin's eyes flashed with confusion, and he subconsciously let go of his hand. Tananochia fell softly to the ground, lying on the ground, retching. As she regained her breathing, Yanochia's purple face gradually returned to rosy. At least on the surface, it looks like a flesh and blood human being. Cough cough cough. Chia Tanano became more and more miserable, pouting and coughing violently, looking extremely painful. But Yilin's eyes were not on Tananochia at the moment, but she was deep in thought. Wrong. This time. The faint confusion in Yilin's eyes faded away, replaced by his usual confident look. This is not the answer. Yeah, that's not the answer here at all. Yilin was able to find this place, but he traveled through layers of space. Assuming that each door in each layer of space corresponds to a space, then layer by layer, the branching road leading to Tanwoya can be said to be there are endless, thousands of them. Under normal circumstances, it is impossible to find them here. Absolutely not. If Yilin hadn't possessed the Kangxin compass, which was equivalent to possessing a cheating device to guide the way in the maze, he would have been able to find this deeply hidden Tanino house, and find this Tanino Chia in the Tanino house. The difficulty is too high. Yilin does not deny that other apostles may have props similar to Kangxin's compass in their hands, but from a probability perspective, one must have such a probability and still be able to come to this place alive. The probability is slim. Yilin simply calculated the probability and made a fair assessment of his strength position in the same level. His comprehensive strength ranks among the top 100 in the world. In other words, assuming this is the answer, then the probability of being able to pass this trial, less than 1 in 100,000. Outrageous. That is to say, this is not the end, nor is it the answer. Even if you want to pass this trial, you don't need to arrive here. So, where is this place? What kind of existence is it? Easter egg? Branch? Hidden ending? There is only one truth. Yilin dug at resentment hard, and after a moment, he understood. At the very least, he has connected all the clues he has so far. I see. At this time, Yanochia's face returned to normal. She stood up again, and stood in front of Yilin with a smile. If it weren't for the sticky, crystal-clear saliva hanging from Jia Tanino's mouth and the faint purple handprint around Jia Tanino's neck, Yilin might have thought that what just happened was just an illusion. Rincon, you are so gentle. Yanochia's face suddenly changed, as if she was preparing to transform into something. Without saying anything, Yilin immediately squinted his eyes and slapped 2 revolvers on the table. Hessian smiled and said, I'll remind you in advance that your face will only irritate me. You'll be responsible for the consequences. Yanochia. The end. Yilin added, the consequences are really serious, really. Taninochia. Her face, which had a faint outline of Lingyi, instantly changed back to its original shape. This place. Yilin pulled out the chair and sat down casually at the dining table. She looked at Jia Tanino, who had a shy face, clamped her legs, and twisted the corners of her clothes with her fingers. Originally, Yilin was still a little unsure. But now he was almost certain. This place is not so much about creating a dilemma with a maze as it is about using the complex spatial maze to bury the Tanino house and Taninochia deeply here. The serious apostles would basically not find this place, so Taninoya and this Taninochia are the most hidden existences in this trial. So, are you the goodness of Gyajiamaimi? Or the admiration part? Yanokinhui smiled and said nothing. Laugh, laugh, laugh. Yilin was stunned. Looking at her smile, Yilin was silent for a while. Finally, Yilin's facial lines softened a bit, and she stepped forward to rub Taninochia's hair and sighed. Say it. Jia Tanino laughed and cried. Rincon, please, save me. Jia Tanino, no, or rather, Gaia Kinmi's kind thoughts. After saying these words, she held back the tears in her eyes, and finally couldn't hold it any longer, and they fell down, bloomed on the ground, and disappeared, leaving no trace of tears. This world is full of evil thoughts. The stench is disconcerting. The whole world is full of black and black, with white in the black. The black and white world changes and splits in front of everyone, presenting a chaotic and unpredictable scene. Every apostle, after they died tragically in Kanzaki City due to various reasons, when they came here in the blink of an eye, they all understood their situation in a short period of time. I understand, I understand. So that's how it works. Everyone understands. This is the real battlefield. Of course, those who don't understand are dead. Those who survived understood it. No matter what you understand. But in the end, they had their own ideas about this mysterious trial based on their own experiences. Su Anjing followed his unique natural sense of smell and came to a strange place. The squares are split into various horizontal and vertical geometric shapes, stacked into a structure like a Rubik's Cube, in the center of the road that splits and rotates like a spider web. From a distance, it looks like a messy cocoon with a square egg wrapped in the cocoon. Around the cocoon, there are countless ghosts wearing student uniforms with ferocious expressions. Some held calipers in their hands, some held whips, and some held candles in their hands, walking around. Su Jingjing observed from a distance for a while and found that if any residents of Kanzaki City accidentally refreshed near here, they would be brutally beaten in an instant. The wax-dropped wooden horses would swarm them, and the scene would be very brutal. After reuniting with Yilin in the last wave of world reorganization, Yilin had briefly informed Su Jingjing and Li Chang about the nature of the formation of this world. The essence of this world is the incarnation of evil thoughts. Everyone's evil thoughts in Kanzaki City will be embodied here, forming various weird monsters. Although these monsters were dangerous, Su Anjing was convinced after knowing that the strange-looking monsters in front of him were not actually so-called ghosts. No matter how difficult it is, they are just monsters, not weird things. What's there to be afraid of? Just go to death and that's it? Looking at their uniforms, they should be students. Su Jingjing stared and suddenly realized. I see. It seems that the buildings surrounding this weird cocoon should be the evil thoughts of those students. But why are they all crowded here? The incarnation of evil thoughts here is obviously more dense than other places, and they are surrounded here, airtight. If you want to force your way in, you have to be the president to have such strength. Anyway, Su Anjing is self-aware, but she is not. It should be right here. Feeling the strong stinky smell in the air, which was far more concentrated than other places, Su Anjing was 90% sure that this should be one of the two places Yilin mentioned. Kanzaki Middle School. However, because all the buildings in this world have been broken into pieces and reorganized, it is really not that easy to distinguish them with the naked eye. President, I found the classroom. Su Anjing suddenly pulled out a unique-shaped arrow, with a colorful hard fruit wrapped around the tip of the arrow. Bending the bow and pulling the string, Su Jingjing twisted her small waist, opened and closed it wide, and made a bend the bow to shoot the big eagle posture, and shot directly upward into the sky. Call out. Cloud-piercing arrow. Boom. The long arrow exploded in the air, and the bright light was like fireworks, becoming the most brilliant color in this black and white world. An arrow pierces the clouds, and thousands of troops come to meet you. President, come quickly. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 581. A world that is both inside and outside. Completely lost in madness. With chaos. Hunting for somewhere in the world. Kudo Shinji had no expression on his face and was covered in blood as he ran wildly on the dark mirror road. When the ability was activated, he seemed to transform into the King of Thunder and Lightning, leaving behind him a trail of afterimages surrounded by blue lightning. He thought he was fast enough. He's already fast, fast, fast. Among men, no one is faster than him in Thunder Mark State. Unexpectedly, those spider squads were completely unreasonable. Don't take the usual path. One by one, the spiders flew to the sky and escaped to the ground, seemingly targeting Kudo Shinji. From the sky and the ground, in all directions, their limbs were more flexible than wild beasts. The spiders were biting Kudo Shinji and wouldn't let go. There's not much psychic power left. Kudo Shinji had a bitter taste in his mouth. He finally ran out of the encirclement, but his body was torn out by the spider Banshin. The most serious thing was behind him. He was careless and didn't move out of the way, and was torn apart by the sharp claws of one of the spider Banshin. The horrific wound stretched diagonally from his left shoulder to his right hip, with bones visible deep inside. If he hadn't hastily applied a tool that could temporarily stop the bleeding, he would have died of exhaustion of health points due to bleeding out. Just when Kudo Shinji was running for his life. To the right, there was another commotion. An apostle was awkwardly dodging various attacks from the surrounding ghosts and monsters, moving around and dodging in an aggressive manner, his movements as nimble as an agility side. But when the man approached and Kudo Shinji saw the man's face clearly, a trace of astonishment appeared on his blood-stained face. Ban-chan. It's you. Kudo. There are more and more strange ghosts in this world, and every reorganization of the world has already made Ban-chan physically and mentally exhausted. If it weren't for his obsession that kept him going until now, he might have died long ago. To put it bluntly, Ban-chan's virgin death in Kanzaki City had an indescribable relationship with Kudo Shinji. If Kudo Shinji hadn't ordered Ban-chan to explore the lake, Ban-chan wouldn't have died in such an unexplained way. But after all, Kudo didn't take action directly. The relationship between the two could not be called enemies, but they could barely be regarded as teammates. But as soon as Ban-chan saw Kudo Shinji, his eyes immediately turned red, his energy came back, he was no longer out of breath, and his wounds no longer hurt. He rushed to Kudo Shinji dozens of meters away, raised his fists, and shouted violently. One sound. Damn Kudo! The moment Kudo Shinji saw the real Banshin, there was a flash of astonishment in his heart. But soon, as a person on the mental side, his brain became more active than ever before. Although he didn't understand the nature and secrets of this trial as thoroughly as Yilin, he still had his own thoughts. In the flash of lightning, the mighty spider Banshin coming from behind was getting closer and closer, but Kudo Shinji's thinking became clearer and clearer, and a bold guess emerged. Cooperate. Otherwise everyone has to, in short, cooperate. Kudo Shinji pointed at the mighty spider Banshin behind him and said something loudly to Banshin. Halfway through his words, Kudo Shinji thought of his method of death and felt a little unlucky for some reason, so he immediately changed his words. After finishing the modification, he actually felt a shiver on his back, and had the illusion that he had passed by something terrible. I believe you. Ban-chan originally ran away with anger. Anger replaced reason then. But when Kudo Shinji said those words, Ban-chan woke up with a start. Kudo is extremely insidious, and he is also a spiritual side who is good at tricks. Cooperating with him is not as secure as working with others. After calming down, Ban-chan caught a glimpse of the dark ghost figure behind Kudo Shinji and suddenly understood. Why do the faces of those spider monsters look familiar? Forget it, never mind. Ban-chan coldly raised his middle finger at Kudo Shinji, turned around and ran away. Thunder mark sprint, accelerate. Hiss. Suddenly. The moment Ban-chan turned around, Kudo Shinji sneered, and the blue electric light surrounding his body skyrocketed. As his spiritual energy value dropped crazily, Kudo Shinji actually crossed a distance of tens of meters in the blink of an eye, and slashed from Ban-chan's body with a single blow. Passed behind. Ban-chan's movement of turning around and running away suddenly stopped. If you don't cooperate, you will die alone. Kudo Shinji put his long sword into its sheath with a click. At the same time as Kudo Shinji put away the knife, Ban-chan's head, which was frozen with a stunned expression, fell to the side with a slap. The broken neck where arterial blood should have spurted out left a trace of electric burns, and even the blood stopped. In the distance dozens of meters away, with the death of Ban-chan, the spider Ban-chan who chased Kudo Shinji all the way, killing and failing to kill, and constantly regenerating, strangely turned into dust, dissipated in the wind, and not even a drop of black, no water was left. Kudo Shinji looked at Banshin's headless body lying on the ground, and the electric light on his body quickly faded away. A hint of regret flashed through Kudo's eyes. He was nostalgic for the days when he could kill people and explode relic boxes. At that time, every box represented everyone's purest wish. Those who touched corpses and souls were those who were keen on touching boxes in that era. Haha, indeed. After a while, Kudo Shinji suppressed his regret and faced the trial again. The eyes on the bridge of his nose lit up, reflecting an icy cold light. When Spider Banshin kept chasing him, he was wondering if it was because Banshin had resentment towards him before he died. This led to those spider monsters chasing after him. So, assuming that the monsters are actually the incarnation of a real person / if the body dies, what will be the fate of the monsters? Now I know. It turns out that once the main body dies, the corresponding monster will disappear. The essence of ghosts is actually the human heart. Since there is an endless source of resentment in people's hearts and there is no way to kill them all, then we should eliminate the source. This is the real way to pass this trial. As expected of me. A confident smile appeared on Kudo Shinji's lips, but he did not stay there for too long as if he was admiring himself, and quickly left the vicinity of Banshin's body. After understanding the way to clear the level, he started thinking. Now everything makes sense and echoes. The mission requirement of the third main mission is to eliminate the Wraith Spirit Gaijimime, etc. Kudo Shinji thought of the key point, his expression changed slightly, and he murmured to himself, strange. It stands to reason that the corresponding ghosts will disappear on their own after death. But this does not explain at all why these strange events still exist after her death. It doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. Is it really a fake corpse? Just when Kudo Shinji was struggling. Somewhere miles away. Boom. Colorful fireworks exploded in the sky. The light black rain all over the sky, against the backdrop of the exploding colorful light, did not reflect the corresponding colors and was still light black. But even so, the 7-color fireworks are so conspicuous in the curious world where there are only 2 colors, black and white. Kudo immediately noticed the movement in that direction. Is it a signal? Who found something there? Kudo Shinji lowered his head to think, but did not hesitate for too long. While recovering his spiritual energy, he rushed towards the direction of the 7-color signal in the air. Except Kudo Shinji. All the apostles who did nothing but die and survived the first wave of world reorganization attacks saw the cloud-piercing arrow sent by Su Anjing in their respective corners. Of course Su Jingjing could think that the president of his family could see the signal, and others could definitely see it too. But in this world where space and time are messed up, Su Anjing has no other arrows to shoot if he wants to position himself except for this high-profile method. Signal arrow is inherently high-profile, and no one can change that. Wang Yang, Xiang Baxian, Chu Yalian, Chen Xiaoxiao and others, who were barely able to cope with various ghost attacks, looked at the direction of the cloud-piercing arrow from their respective positions and fell into deep thought at the same time. To go or not to go? That kind of light effect obviously comes from the skill of a certain apostle. In this situation, there were only 2 possibilities for the apostle to send out such a signal, either to ask for help, or to find some key clues and plan to use this method to inform other teammates. If it's the latter, then the benefits outweigh the disadvantages if they take part. After all, in this cruel and curious world, there are monsters everywhere. Where can I go? But if you are asking for help, then if you go, you may also die. But what if this is a clue? Once this broken place starts to reorganize, it might be too late. After much thought, many people gritted their teeth and prepared to leave for the place where the letter was sent. There are also many people who are hesitating, and thinking on the spot. In this chaotic and dangerous place, everything is unknown, and no one dares to wander around blindly. However, not long after Su Anjing's cloud-piercing arrow was shot. The effect of the cloud-penetrating arrow is that it condenses at a specific location in the air and never disperses, and its light lasts for a long time. When the effect of the cloud-penetrating arrow has not dissipated, the other direction, a vast golden light descended from the sky, echoing and connecting with the golden light rising from the ground. This light, which was more exaggerated, outrageous and dazzling than the cloud piercer, instantly attracted everyone's attention. Some people subconsciously twitched the corners of their mouths. The endless movements in the sky made people speechless, but they couldn't help but see what these talents who used special effects to convey information wanted to do. It's mysterious, playing spy game and playing house. The golden light in the sky reunited in the dark sky and the rain. The golden light gathered and formed in the sky, like 5 scorching suns, shining dazzlingly and blinding the eyes of dogs. It turned out to be 4 words, plus a huge exclamation mark. Boss, save me. All apostles. Gaiagiamai. Ghost. The apostles who were struggling between life and death suddenly realized when they saw the contrast between the 2 completely different light effects in the sky. I see. The more exaggerated signal effects are a serious distress signal. Over there with the cloud-piercing arrow. Got it, got it. Later, the special effects of Big Brother Save Me made a small group of hesitant apostles make a decision. The world is changing and turbulent. One by one, the apostles were approaching Su Jingjing's position. No one noticed that although the color of the rain became lighter. But that day, it was darker, heavier, and richer, as if water would squeeze out at any time.